pause exactly where you are. Do not swipe away. Do not minimize this screen, and absolutely do not convince yourself that you can simply return to this moment at a more convenient time. Why? Because the occurrence that just unfolded within the preceding 3 seconds is an exceedingly rare anomaly, a profound phenomenon that the vast majority of individuals wandering this earth will never once encounter during their entire existence. Your personal energetic field has just intercepted a direct broadcast. Please understand, this is not merely another piece of internet content, nor is it a random video fed to you by some mindless, predictive algorithm analyzing your past viewing habits. Instead, this is a flawless frequency alignment. Imagine a complex, ancient lock finally tumbling open because the precise key has been inserted. That key, undeniably, is you. Specifically, it is the exact iteration of you that is taking a breath in this very second, residing at this unrepeatable vibrational coordinate in space and time. A distinct pulse within your auric signature reached out, piercing through the overwhelming static and the billions of chaotic digital signals currently flooding the ether, and it actively magnetized this specific message straight into your reality. Or perhaps, and I invite you to truly sit with this thought for a moment, this message actively hunted you down and pulled your attention toward it. Regardless of the direction of that magnetic pull, a sacred tether has now been established, and this energetic connection is entirely irreversible. Before we venture any deeper into this space, it is absolutely crucial that you comprehend the nature of what is unfolding. Abandon the notion that you are consuming entertainment. Discard the idea that this is just another fleeting burst of motivational inspiration or a cliché reminder to stay positive and artificially elevate your mood. The sequence of moments you are about to step into over the upcoming minutes constitutes a legitimate, undeniable energetic activation. In fact, your own biometric and spiritual fields are already reacting to the shift. You might presently be noticing a subtle, electric tingling sensation dancing across your palms, a blossoming heat radiating from your heart center, or perhaps a sudden, profound quietness blanketing a mind that was previously spiraling with chaotic noise. Alternatively, you might perceive absolutely nothing at all right now. That is entirely acceptable and expected, because the most profound spiritual downloads rarely announce their arrival with loud, explosive fanfare. Frequently, they manifest as pure, unadulterated silence. Occasionally, the most monumental alteration in your internal frequency masquerades as a whisper so incredibly faint that it almost escapes your conscious detection. Yet, make no mistake, your physical vessel is entirely aware. On a cellular level, your biology recognizes the shift, the innate, sovereign intelligence that has flawlessly commanded your heart to beat every single second of your life without requiring a singular conscious command from you, is acutely aware of what is transpiring in this exact instant. You have been detected. Allow the weight of that realization to fully settle into your bones. You were not picked out of a crowd based on a whimsical, arbitrary lottery. This is not a product of blind luck, random chance, or some illusion of cosmic favoritism. You were systematically detected in the exact same manner that a masterfully crafted tuning fork effortlessly locates its identical harmonic twin across a crowded, deafeningly loud concert hall. It is the flawless mechanism of a highly sensitive radio receiver firmly locking onto the exact broadcast it was engineered to intercept. For quite some time now, you have been continuously radiating a highly specific, potent frequency, and the vast majority of this broadcasting has been occurring entirely outside the boundaries of your conscious mind. This signal has been pulsing outward through your recent tendency to question the fundamental structures of your reality. It has been screaming into the void through the palpable discomfort and friction you now experience in environments, social circles, and routines that once felt perfectly comfortable. The broadcast is fueled by that eerie, unshakable intuition hovering in your periphery, the persistent feeling that a colossal, paradigm-altering shift is looming, even if you lack the vocabulary to define it. It is evident in the rapid, almost overwhelming pace at which you are currently shedding old relationships, outgrowing familiar places, breaking ancestral patterns, and shedding outdated versions of your own identity faster than your mind can logically process. Every single one of those experiences is a profound spiritual signal. They are the undeniable symptoms of your personal energy grid undergoing a massive recalibration process. Understand this. The broadcast you are currently engaged with was meticulously coded and released with the sole purpose of seeking out energy fields that are in that exact turbulent state of metamorphosis. There is a deeply guarded truth regarding genuine spiritual activations that is rarely spoken of. They never make their appearance during seasons of complacency and comfort. Instead, they manifest only when true readiness is achieved. And true readiness is rarely neat or orderly. It does not look like having every aspect of your existence flawlessly planned out. Rather, readiness is the sensation of standing trembling at the absolute precipice of your known universe, peering into the unknown, and feeling the solid earth beneath your feet begin to crumble and reshape itself. Readiness is a chaotic, disorienting fog of confusion that is simultaneously charged with a thrilling, undeniable electricity. Readiness, fundamentally, looks exactly like the person staring at this screen right now, regardless of your current emotional state, irrespective of the hardships you are currently navigating, and no matter how heavy the burdens you have been silently carrying. This exact moment is decidedly not an accident. By the time our journey through this transmission concludes, you will possess a crystal clear understanding of exactly why your soul magnetically pulled this toward you, and you will recognize the dormant powers it is actively awakening within your core. Let me guide your mind to a very specific place. Visualize, if you will, an unimaginably vast pitch-black ocean. There are no comforting coastlines visible on the horizon. Absolutely no celestial bodies illuminating the sky above. Simply an infinite, suffocating expanse of dark, heavy water stretching endlessly into every conceivable dimension. Now, plunge your awareness beneath the surface of this Stygian sea and picture billions upon billions of individual, glowing lights suspended in the depths. Each one of those luminescent sparks represents a distinct consciousness. Each flickering bulb is a living, breathing soul constantly projecting its own individualized vibrational footprint into the watery void. The overwhelming majority of these submerged lights throb at a very low, monotonous, and predictable tempo. They are conditioned to flash in identical sequences, perfectly mimicking the rhythmic patterns of the surrounding masses. They blindly synchronize their glow with whichever neighboring light happens to be closest. When the collective waters around them inevitably grow shadowy and bleak, they too diminish their brilliance in submission, and they only dare to shine brighter if they witness the surrounding collective giving them permission by illuminating first. These lights are highly reactive, endlessly adapting to external stimuli, but they severely lack internal sovereignty. They have tragically become mere reflections of their environment, rather than independent, self-sustaining sources of illumination. However, intermittently, a truly breathtaking anomaly disrupts the monotony. Against all odds, one solitary light within that massive cluster starts to beat to an entirely different drum. It does not necessarily surge with a blinding intensity or accelerate its flashing to a frantic pace. Rather, the fundamental quality of its glow changes completely. It dares to project a rogue wavelength, an entirely unique frequency signature that aggressively refuses to blend in or match the stagnant, conforming waters that encompass it. Instead of merely mirroring the abyss, this singular, awakened spark begins to pulsate with a cadence born from the deepest, most authentic chambers of its own essence. It stops asking the surrounding waters for permission to shine. When such a profound rebellion of light occurs, the neighboring masses react in one of two highly predictable ways. They will either aggressively attempt to drag that divergent spark back down into the suffocating, synchronized mediocrity of the collective, or they will slowly, inevitably drift away into the shadows, inherently repelled by the unfamiliar brilliance. Regardless of the outcome, this courageous beacon finds itself navigating a profound and expanding solitude. it becomes increasingly unmatched, acutely conscious that it is broadcasting on a wavelength the surrounding ocean is entirely incapable of decoding. That solitary defiant light is you. You have been sensing this exact phenomenon unfolding in your own life, haven't you? The widening, undeniable chasm between your current self and the familiar world you once comfortably occupied. You notice it in shallow conversations that leave you feeling spiritually starved. You feel it in mainstream entertainment that utterly fails to numb or distract you anymore. You experience it acutely in old relationships and social circles that now feel terribly restrictive, like trying to force yourself into a garment several sizes too small. Your internal rhythm has fundamentally altered. You are pulsing to a different drumbeat entirely, and the collective societal ocean has responded in the only way it knows how, with stubborn resistance or expanding distance. Yet buried within that poignant isolation, in that sacred, liminal void suspended between the person you used to be and the magnificent entity you are actively becoming, your vibrational output breached a critical threshold. It was the crossing of that exact energetic boundary that finally rendered you visible on the radar of this very transmission. Prepare yourself for a foundational truth that possesses the power to rewrite your entire existence. The cosmos does not function on the currency of sheer, grueling effort. It operates exclusively on the unbreakable law of resonance. For your entire life, society has force-fed you the narrative that success and fulfillment demand relentless hustle. You were taught to grind, to struggle, to brutally muscle your way through endless friction until the fabric of reality finally surrendered to your sheer willpower. And yes, that exhausting paradigm does yield results, but only up to a certain painful limit. It functions exactly like violently swimming upstream against a raging river. You might gain a few inches, clawing your way forward through sheer exhaustion, but you will never achieve the velocity or distance of a person who simply discovered an entirely different and hidden current, one that naturally flows toward their desired destination. For those individuals, the only required action was adjusting their internal frequency to harmonize with that supportive flow. Do not mistake this for mere poetic metaphor. We are discussing literal, foundational mechanics. To be specific, this is quantum mechanics, elegantly clothed in the ancient vocabulary of mystics, simply because the spiritual sages comprehended these universal laws millennia before modern science caught up. Every single subatomic particle constructing your physical vessel exists purely in a nebulous state of infinite probability. They remain in this quantum soup of potential right up until the exact microsecond they are actively observed, until consciousness itself directly interacts with them. Your focused observation, your sustained attention, and the distinct frequency of your awareness literally dictate which infinite variation of reality collapses out of the ether and solidifies into physical form. This is not guesswork. This phenomenon has been rigorously proven in clinical laboratories and flawlessly replicated in experiments spanning decades of peer-reviewed research. The observer fundamentally alters the observed. Pure consciousness literally molds physical matter. Therefore, your individual consciousness, your highly specific vibrational state, is actively sculpting your tangible reality in every waking, breathing moment, entirely, regardless of whether you are consciously steering the wheel or running on autopilot. If the frequencies embedded within this broadcast are already plucking at a resonant chord deep within your soul, pause for a brief second to interact with this video. Engage the like button and subscribe to this channel. This physical action serves as an energetic anchor, ensuring your personal field remains securely tethered to these transformative frequencies as they continue to escalate and unfold. Now, let us dive into the truly profound layer of this reality. Your personal energetic signature, what ancient traditions often referred to as your halo, is absolutely not a whimsical, imaginary spiritual fantasy. It is a highly literal, scientifically measurable, and fully detectable electromagnetic force field. It is actively generated when your heart center and your neurological pathways operate in a state of perfect coherence. Your physical heart alone emits a robust electromagnetic pulse that projects outward, extending several feet beyond the boundaries of your biological skin. When this biological force field achieves true coherence, when it hums at a deliberately elevated, incredibly stable frequency, it performs a miraculous function. It instantly transforms into a highly intelligent filter. It acts as an impenetrable shield and an automated sorting algorithm, ruthlessly dictating exactly what experiences, people, and opportunities are granted permission to enter your physical reality. Absorb the gravity of that statement. Your halo is not some mystical armor you need to artificially construct from scratch. It is an innate mechanism you already possess. It has been tirelessly operating in the background for every single second of your existence. The pertinent question is not, and has never been, whether you possess this invisible protective barrier. The only question that matters is, what specific frequency is your dial currently tuned to? The undeniable truth is that your halo acts as an absolute magnet for its own vibration. Whatever frequency it broadcasts, it inevitably pulls back into its orbit. Equally vital is its power of repulsion. If your internal dial is locked onto the frequency of fear, your field will aggressively attract scenarios that validate your terrors, while simultaneously repelling any golden opportunities that would demand bravery to claim. If your energetic signature is steeped in unworthiness, you will magnetically draw in relationships designed to keep you feeling insignificant, violently pushing away the type of expansive love that would force you to step into your ultimate power. An aura vibrating with chaos will effortlessly manifest endless drama, blocking out the serene peace that is otherwise infinitely available. Understand this deeply. This is not a cosmic punishment. The universe is not grading you, testing you, or handing out penalties. Resonance is simply an unwavering mechanical law of nature, completely devoid of personal preference. It harbors no judgment. It holds no biases. It merely, flawlessly, matches. This precise phenomenon explains exactly why your personal energy grid aggressively captured this broadcast. At some point in your recent history, your auric field initiated a profound metamorphosis, consciously, or perhaps entirely beneath the surface of your waking awareness. You commenced vibrating on a wavelength that vehemently rejects the surrounding chaos. It fundamentally refuses to align with the frequency of terror, and it completely denies the suffocating illusion of playing small. A deep-seated compass within your soul began blindly groping in the dark for a beacon that resonates entirely with your ultimate destination rather than the history you are leaving behind. Let me be clear. This very video is that exact beacon. Allow me to pull you even deeper down the rabbit hole. Within the rigorous framework of quantum physics, there exists a mind-bending principle known as quantum entanglement. The moment two individual particles enter an entangled state, an invisible, unbreakable tether binds them together. Absolutely disregarding any spatial separation, you could violently fling them apart across opposing hemispheres of the globe, or even scatter them across entirely different galactic systems. Yet, the exact microsecond you alter the state of the first particle, its twin reacts with zero delay. We are not talking about a reaction traveling at the speed of light. We are talking about literal, absolute instantaneousness. It behaves exactly as though the vast physical emptiness stretching between them is a complete illusion, as if, at the most foundational level of reality, they are merely a single, unified entity, simultaneously perceiving existence from two entirely separate vantage points. Suspend that staggering concept at the forefront of your mind and apply it to this paradigm. What if you are currently in a state of quantum entanglement with a timeline of your own life that has already fully materialized? What about that magnificent future you keep vaguely sensing, that vivid reality that feels so incredibly tangible you can practically taste the air, yet it frustratingly slips right through your fingers whenever you try to grasp it? Consider the radical possibility that you do not have to exhaustively construct this future from scratch. What if you are already intimately tethered to it, and the sole barrier standing between your current state and that manifestation is not a matter of chronological time? It is not a lack of grueling effort, and it certainly isn't a measure of your self-worth. The absolute only separator is pure vibrational frequency. That evolved, sovereign iteration of you residing comfortably within that parallel reality is constantly broadcasting a homing signal. You have actually been intercepting fragments of this broadcast during your moments of profound stillness, within the depths of your most vulnerable prayers, and during those inexplicable lightning bolt flashes of intuition that seemingly strike from nowhere and everywhere simultaneously. You are, quite literally, downloading encrypted transmissions directly from your own future self. Furthermore, this specific encounter right now, the air entering your lungs in this precise second, is a vital architectural component of the bridge connecting the two of you. Let me pause to pose a pivotal question directly to you. Try to recall the precise catalyst. When was the absolute first time you consciously perceived your personal energy grid kicking into high gear? That distinct juncture where, defying all rational logic, you simply knew your baseline vibration was permanently altering. I invite you to chronicle that unique awakening in the comment section below. Your personal testimony holds immense power. It could very well be the exact energetic activation that another wandering soul desperately requires to read in this very minute. You are intimately familiar with this sensation, aren't you? I am speaking of those jolting instances where an absolute certainty floods your mind regarding a subject you have no earthly business knowing. It is that undeniable, magnetic compulsion dragging you toward a radical life choice that looks utterly disastrous on a logical spreadsheet, yet reverberates with absolute, undeniable truth deep within the marrow of your bones. It is the experience of snapping awake at 3 o'clock in the morning, enveloped in a crystal-clear epiphany that tragically evaporates like mist the moment you sit down for breakfast. Do not dismiss these occurrences as mere random neurological misfirings. These are direct, undeniable entanglement signals. Your fully realized future self, the one who has successfully traversed the quantum bridge, is aggressively attempting to establish contact through the ethereal field. As you continuously purify and refine your personal halo, the volume of these cross-temporal communications amplifies exponentially. However, here lies the critical misunderstanding that traps the masses. This specific nuance is the great divider, the boundary line separating those who genuinely undergo radical metamorphosis from those who merely binge-watch spiritual concepts for entertainment. The broadcasts echoing from your ultimate, highest timeline do not magically increase in volume simply because you strain your ears and try harder to listen. Their clarity only intensifies when you actively dismantle the interference obstructing the line. And the source of this blockage is rarely what your ego assumes it is. It is not your current financial or social circumstances. It is not the historical weight of your past. Surprisingly, it is not even your unresolved trauma itself. While those traumatic events undeniably forged the initial behavioral loops, the actual culprit suffocating your signal is purely static noise. More precisely, it is the deafening roar of outdated and obsolete identities that you stubbornly continue to parade around in, simply because you suffered a temporary amnesia and forgot that you have the power to undress and discard them. Allow me to break this concept down with absolute clarity. Every single event you have ever lived through has violently stamped a permanent frequency watermark onto your spiritual grid. Every limiting paradigm you unknowingly soaked up from your parents, your societal conditioning, your academic indoctrination, and your most devastating heartbreaks, each and every one of these factors carved a highly specific vibrational signature into your surrounding halo. To be fair, a significant portion of those energetic stamps served a vital purpose during their inception. The ingrained conviction that shrinking yourself and remaining invisible equated to safety was a brilliant tactic that actively preserved your life in a toxic environment where shining too brightly invited severe punishment. The warped ideology that true love inherently demanded painful self-sacrifice was a necessary psychological shield, allowing you to survive intimate dynamics where highly conditional, manipulative affection was the only currency on the table. The deeply rooted paranoia that the universe is a vicious, hostile arena requiring constant hypervigilance, that was a masterclass in intelligent biological adaptation when you were actively navigating a war zone. Nevertheless, there is a fundamental flaw regarding these brilliant survival adaptations. They completely lack internal expiration dates. They do not possess the self-awareness to gracefully auto-delete themselves the moment you finally escape the dangerous environment. Instead, they stubbornly endure. They operate relentlessly, mimicking corrupted software programs running silently in the background of a computer's operating system. They silently drain your vital energy reserves, manufacture endless amounts of static, and force you to perceive your current reality through an aggressively distorted lens that is completely irrelevant to the safe harbor you now inhabit. You are currently navigating the world encapsulated within a defensive halo that remains fiercely calibrated to endure battlegrounds you successfully evacuated years ago, perhaps decades ago, or if your mind is open to the concept, even several lifetimes ago. All of this archaic, obsolete programming generates a monumental wall of chaotic static. It is this exact, manufactured noise polluting your auric field that entirely suffocates and drowns out the pristine, high-frequency broadcast calling to you from your ultimate timeline. Imagine attempting to appreciate the delicate, sweeping strings of a masterful orchestral symphony while standing dead center in a chaotic, deafening construction zone. The beautiful music is actively playing. It has never stopped playing for a single second. Yet, you remain completely deaf to its majestic harmony simply because the abrasive, mechanical racket surrounding you is entirely overpowering it. Therefore, the central dilemma you face is never, how do I magnetically pull my desires toward me? Instead, the ultimate question is, which layers of chaotic static am I finally courageous enough to discard? Stop for a second and truly absorb this. We are not speaking in poetic metaphors here. This is a highly literal, biological, and energetic transaction. Right now, in this exact microsecond, I need you to draw in a breath. Do not take that shallow, automated sip of air you rely on to merely survive. I mean a profound, expansive inhalation that radically inflates your entire torso. Draw the air slowly through your nostrils and consciously feel your ribcage stretch outward. Feel your abdomen expand and your chest confidently rise. Suspend that breath at the very peak for just a heartbeat, and then gently, deliberately let it spill out through your lips. As that breath leaves your physical vessel, you are going to anchor a firm intention. This is not a fragile wish or a desperate hope. It is a sovereign command. Declare this silently within your mind, or speak it aloud to the room. I completely expel all vibrational frequencies that do not belong to my soul. I purge the chaotic static, obstructing my divine broadcast. I am profoundly ready to receive the signal with absolute clarity. Pay close attention to the immediate physiological reaction occurring within your biological vessel as you issue that command. Do you detect a sudden, gentle softening in your muscles, perhaps a spontaneous physical release, or a subtle alleviation of internal pressure? That is the undeniable proof of your energetic field answering your call. That is your personal halo actively rebooting and recalibrating in real time. You just granted it the ultimate permission to drop a heavy burden it had been clutching for years. And in this realm, permission is the master key. Your auric field will stubbornly grip those obsolete, toxic wavelengths until the end of time, unless you introduce a conscious, deliberate command to evict them. It does this simply because your nervous system was incorrectly programmed to believe that holding on tightly equates to staying alive. In this very moment, you have successfully reprogrammed your internal software. You just instructed your biology that surrendering and letting go is the ultimate form of safety. You declared that absolute clarity is your greatest armor. And this realization perfectly segues into one of the most drastically misinterpreted concepts within the entire spectrum of spiritual philosophy. True energetic protection has absolutely nothing to do with resistance. Let me repeat that, so it echoes in your mind, because it is the foundational key that unlocks the entire matrix. Protection is never resistance. Mainstream society has aggressively indoctrinated you with the belief that safeguarding yourself requires constructing impenetrable fortresses. You were taught to hoist up heavy shields, wrap yourself in thick armor to deflect perceived threats, and wage endless wars against negative energy. while deploying a defensive barricade might serve a temporary purpose in an acute, extreme crisis. Adopting resistance as a permanent lifestyle is a recipe for disaster. It is profoundly exhausting, deeply isolating, and ultimately guarantees your own defeat. Why? Because the fundamental law of the universe dictates that in order to resist an entity, you must first feed it your precious attention, and wherever your attention flows, your personal frequency inevitably follows. The exact moment you donate your frequency to an obstacle, you forcefully drag it into direct harmonic resonance with your personal field. This perfectly illustrates the tragic irony of why individuals who are perpetually battling against toxicity always seem to be drowning in it. This is why souls obsessively terrified of energy vampires are constantly surrounded by them. It explains why the most hyper-vigilant, anxiety-ridden humans chronically manifest the precise nightmares that keep them awake at night. This is not the universe acting out of cruelty. It is the universe acting with mathematical precision. You simply cannot push back against a vibration without first matching its exact tempo, and you cannot mimic a tempo without reeling its match straight into your living room. So, what does genuine, impenetrable protection actually look like? Authentic protection is achieved exclusively through frequency elevation. Masterful spiritual defense does not involve stacking bricks to block out the darkness. Instead, it involves amplifying your own internal radiance to such a staggering altitude that low-vibrating chaos is fundamentally incapable of breathing the air in your atmosphere. You do not survive the darkness by wrestling it. You survive by operating on a completely different channel. You render yourself entirely invisible and thoroughly untouchable to the madness. Think of an FM radio securely locked onto a specific station. It is biologically impossible for it to intercept the static of a different broadcast. Make no mistake, those chaotic, low-frequency storms are still raging somewhere out in the ether, but they are completely banished from your personal reality because your halo is simply no longer engineered to decode them. When ancient wisdom dictates that your frequency is your protection, it is not offering a catchy bumper sticker slogan. It is stating a rigid, undeniable law of quantum physics. The second you finally abandon the exhausting crusade of battling the shadows and simply focus all your effort on dialing up your internal wattage, your entire universe restructures itself. The looming threats that once cannibalized your mental bandwidth evaporate into thin air. The parasitic individuals who leached your vitality quietly fade from your timeline. The cyclical, destructive habits that held you hostage completely lose their teeth. You didn't conquer them in a bloody war. You simply evolved past their reach. Your energetic halo ascended to a stratosphere where those lower elements simply cannot survive. Take a moment and drop a comment below. What specific daily practice or mental pivot has been the most effective tool in reinforcing your own halo? What finally helped you drop your sword and start ascending above the fog? Share your wisdom, because your specific breakthrough might be the exact frequency another viewer desperately needs to receive today. To truly cement this concept, let me paint a picture for you through a story. Once upon a time, there resided a woman named Miriam, whose home was nestled at the very roots of a colossal, imposing mountain. The village she inhabited was cursed by a perpetual, suffocating fog. However, this was no ordinary morning mist. It was an unnaturally dense, oppressive smog that carried a palpable, crushing weight. It forcefully pressed down upon the shoulders of the villagers, plunging them into chronic lethargy, eroding their memories, and forcing them to shrink themselves just to endure it. Every single dawn, without fail, Miriam would awaken and waste the freshest hours of her day aggressively fighting to sweep the murky vapor away from her doorstep. She would desperately flail her arms in the air, ignite massive roaring bonfires, string up protective crystals, burn bundles of pungent herbs, and exhaustively execute every single defensive ritual she had ever learned in a desperate bid to cleanse the atmosphere suffocating her home. Yet, despite her relentless efforts, the outcome was always tragically identical. Each morning, the oppressive smog would momentarily recede from her threshold, offering a fleeting illusion of victory, only to violently surge back with double the density the exact microsecond she laid down her tools. Over the course of many grueling years, Miriam deeply internalized the belief that this endless, exhausting battle was her divine life purpose. She was utterly convinced she was chosen to be the solitary guardian keeping the suffocating mist at bay. Within her community, she earned the revered title of the Fog Fighter. The villagers constantly praised her unwavering dedication, showering her with fresh tools, esoteric techniques, and innovative methods designed to repel the vapor. She eagerly tested every single offering, yet, without fail, every strategy proved entirely useless after a mere few hours. One fateful afternoon, an elderly, weathered traveler wandered into the village. He quietly observed Miriam engaged in her frantic, daily war against the mist. Finding a comfortable boulder, he simply sat and waited patiently until her physical stamina was completely depleted. When she finally collapsed, gasping for breath as the familiar, heavy fog immediately swirled back around her ankles, the old man gently broke the silence. "Miriam," he inquired softly, "have you ever attempted to summit the great mountain?" She blinked, casting her gaze upward toward the towering peak, a peak she had never actually laid eyes upon, as it was permanently swallowed by the dense cloud cover above. "Absolutely not," she scoffed, bewildered by the suggestion. "No one ever ventures up there. Our duty is to remain down here in the valley and hold the fog back." The traveler offered a slow, knowing nod. "You must understand," he explained. "This fog is physically incapable of existing above a specific altitude. It is inherently too dense and heavy. It aggressively clings to the lowest valleys, simply because that is its fundamental nature. It does not possess a mind to chase you. It does not actively hunt. It merely floods and occupies whatever space aligns with its heavy vibration. If your true desire is to break free from its suffocating grip, the answer is not to furiously fight it down here. The answer, Miriam, is to climb." Miriam stared at him, her mind reeling. "But what about my village? What will happen to the people I leave behind?" A warm, radiant smile spread across the traveler's face. "What exactly do you imagine they will do when they finally witness you standing completely bathed in glorious, unbroken sunlight? Listen to me closely. You are simultaneously embodying both Miriam and that magnificent mountain. A massive portion of your soul has been trapped in the valley, fruitlessly warring against the fog. You have been hemorrhaging your vital energy, your most precious, irreplaceable life force, exhaustively pushing back against the crushing heaviness, the toxic negativity, and the low-frequency chaos that constantly threatens to swallow you. However, there is another, highly evolved fragment of your consciousness, the precise fragment that magnetically pulled this very video into your reality, that already inherently understands a vital truth. The solution is never to swing your sword harder in the dark. The ultimate, triumphant answer is to rise. You must aggressively ascend. You must actively elevate your personal frequency until you reach a spiritual altitude where the suffocating smog simply lacks the biological density to touch you. And when you finally achieve that ascent, when you stand victorious in the golden sunlight high above the murky clouds, you achieve far more than personal liberation. You instantly transform into a blinding beacon of hope. You become living, breathing evidence to those still trapped in the valley that a reality exists above the darkness. And make no mistake, offering the world the brilliance of your liberated light is infinitely more powerful than offering them the sweat of your endless, exhausting battles. This exact realization is the fulcrum where everything fundamentally shifts. We must now dissect the actual mechanics of how to genuinely elevate your frequency, because this is precisely the juncture where mainstream spiritual dogma so often derails into fantasy. You have been continuously indoctrinated with the belief that raising your vibration is a simple matter of forcefully thinking happy thoughts, reciting hollow affirmations in the mirror, aggressively visualizing material wealth, or sitting in rigid meditation for hours on end. Let me be clear. Those practices are not inherently useless. They certainly possess a degree of utility. However, they are merely external tools, not the foundational source of power. They are supplementary techniques that only yield actual results when a much deeper, structural foundation is already firmly established. Without that solid bedrock, these practices devolve into mere spiritual pageantry, a theatrical performance. It is the equivalent of meticulously pantomiming the actions of a highly evolved being, while your internal energetic grid remains stubbornly chained to obsolete, low-frequency programming. That vital, unshakable foundation I am referring to is coherence. True energetic coherence dictates that every single layer of your being, your internal thoughts, your raw emotional state, the words you speak, and the actions you take are all vibrating in absolute, flawless unison. It means permanently eradicating the cavernous gap between what leaves your lips and what you genuinely feel in your gut. It means annihilating the discrepancy between your stated intentions and your actual behavior. It demands that the polished persona you present to society perfectly mirrors the raw, unedited soul you are behind locked doors. Coherence is the ruthless, complete elimination of internal contradiction. And hear this clearly. Internal contradiction is the single most destructive source of chaotic, static, polluting your auric field. Take a moment to genuinely analyze your life. How massive is the sheer volume of energy you squander daily simply trying to maintain your internal lies? Smiling and insisting you are perfectly fine when you are silently crumbling. Feigning excitement for goals you secretly despise. Projecting an aura of bulletproof confidence while your stomach is churning with terror. Nodding along in agreement with opinions that violate your core values. Remaining paralyzed in toxic environments when every single cell in your body is screaming at you to run. Every single time you engage in one of these contradictions, you violently fracture the frequency of your halo. It is the energetic equivalent of forcing a radio receiver to simultaneously blast two entirely different stations at maximum volume. The inevitable byproduct is ear-splitting static, blinding confusion, and a severely compromised energy field that is entirely incapable of manifesting a clear desire because it is vomiting a chaotic mess of mixed signals out into the quantum universe. Achieving coherence has absolutely nothing to do with chasing an impossible standard of perfection. Rather, it is the pursuit of radical, uncomfortable, and breathtakingly beautiful honesty. It requires being brutally honest with yourself first, and subsequently, projecting that unvarnished truth outward into your reality. When you successfully anchor yourself in a state of true coherence, your energy field undergoes a miraculous transformation. It stops behaving like a cheap flashlight and becomes a highly concentrated laser. A standard flashlight weakly scatters its illumination in a million different directions. It manages to cast a dim, pathetic glow over a wide area, but it fails to illuminate anything with genuine, piercing intensity. Conversely, a laser meticulously hyperfocuses every single photon of its light into one unified, razor-sharp beam, a beam so profoundly concentrated and powerful that it can slice cleanly through solid steel. It is the exact same source of light, but the difference in coherence changes the outcome entirely. Your personal halo operates on this exact same principle. When your energy is scattered by internal lies and contradictions, your field casts a weak, ineffective glow over your entire life, failing to manifest anything of real substance or power. However, when you achieve absolute coherence, when every single facet of your being is fiercely aligned and vibrating with the exact same undeniable truth, your energy field becomes so impossibly focused and intensely powerful that physical reality has no choice but to literally reorganize its molecular structure around your presence. This is the profound reason why genuine authenticity is not merely an endearing personality quirk to strive for. It is, quite literally, the most advanced quantum technology you possess. Consider this an absolute law of your personal physics. Every single time you bravely utter the unfiltered truth, you actively fortify your internal coherence. Each instance, you align your external actions with the raw authenticity of your internal emotions. You dramatically reinforce the structural integrity of your halo whenever you decisively choose the path that your deepest, most primal intuition is pointing toward, even when that path is shrouded in paralyzing terror, even when it violently defies all rational logic, and especially when the masses surrounding you stare in total bewilderment. You are actively calibrating your energetic grid. You are tuning your field to a master frequency capable of effortlessly moving mountains. And remember, you achieve this monumental feat not through the brute force of exhaustion, but through the elegant power of pure resonance. Now, let us anchor these lofty concepts into the solid earth. I am going to provide you with a highly practical, actionable assignment. Commencing immediately, starting this very day, I challenge you to isolate just one specific sector of your existence where you are currently operating out of coherence. I guarantee you already know exactly what it is. The very second that word left my mouth, a distinct image violently flashed across the screen of your consciousness. Perhaps it is a romantic entanglement that has overstayed its welcome, a soul-crushing career path, a toxic behavioral loop, a deeply ingrained limiting paradigm, a crucial confrontation you have been cowardly dodging, or a bitter truth you have been forcing yourself to swallow daily. You know precisely what is fractured. You have been acutely aware of this misalignment for a considerable amount of time. Yet, you have continuously fed yourself the comforting lie that the timing isn't quite perfect, or that you simply aren't strong enough yet, or that the situation is far too complex to untangle. But hear this loud and clear. Your energetic field is not fooled by your ego's excuses. It knows the absolute truth, and more importantly, it has been silently paying the exorbitant, crippling energetic tax for that ongoing incoherence every single waking moment. Now, let me be very clear about what I am not instructing you to do. I am absolutely not suggesting you aggressively detonate your entire life. I am not advising you to march into your office tomorrow and dramatically resign, nor am I telling you to abruptly sever a long-term relationship tonight with a theatrical monologue. That chaotic approach is not how true coherence is cultivated. Authentic coherence is birthed through the simple, profound act of quiet acknowledgement. It begins with the solitary, fiercely courageous decision to finally stop lying to yourself. Your immediate goal is not to aggressively fix the problem or mastermind a brilliant solution. Your only task right now is to unflinchingly observe it, to simply look in the mirror and declare, yes, this specific area is where my life is fractured. This is precisely where my energy is split. This is the exact source of the deafening static. Because the instant you drag that contradiction out of the shadows and acknowledge it, a miraculous energetic transaction occurs. The massive reservoir of vital energy you previously squandered on maintaining the illusion, the sheer effort required to blindfold yourself and keep that contradiction hidden from your own awareness, is instantly liberated. And liberated energy within a highly conscious field does not remain stagnant. It immediately, autonomously initiates a profound reorganization process. It naturally gravitates back toward a state of pristine coherence, without requiring any forceful pushing on your part. You do not need to aggressively wrestle change into submission. You simply need to surrender to the truth. The raw truth is the ultimate catalyst. The truth is the master key that adjusts your frequency. The truth is the only mechanism capable of perfectly tuning your halo. Recite this powerful declaration with me right now, whether silently within the sanctuary of your mind or spoken aloud to the universe. I clearly recognize the spaces where my energy has been fractured. I deeply honor the temporary protection that those fractures once provided me, but I now sovereignly choose absolute coherence. From this breath forward, I command my field to vibrate as one unified signal, one unshakable truth, one master frequency. Allow the weight of those words to fully permeate your biological vessel. Actively feel your energetic grid responding to the command. You might suddenly be overwhelmed by a wave of intense emotion. You might experience a profound, cellular sigh of relief. You might even encounter a sudden rush of grief for the traumatized version of yourself who genuinely believed that fracturing your soul was the only way to survive. Honor every single emotion that arises. All of it is sacred. All of it is valid. It is all a vital component of this massive recalibration sequence. Now, brace yourself, because we are preparing to plunge even deeper into the abyss. This specific broadcast is constructed with intricate layers, and we have barely scratched the surface of the descent. There is a colossal phenomenon unfolding across the surface of this planet right now that you must fundamentally comprehend. You are absolutely not just stumbling through a solitary, isolated spiritual awakening. You are an active, vital participant in a massive collective frequency upgrade, a planetary shift that has been quietly accelerating in the background for decades and is currently breaching a critical, explosive threshold. That heavy, suffocating fog we discussed in Miriam's story, that is not merely your personal, localized struggle. It is a dense, planetary miasma, and paradoxically, it is appearing to grow thicker and more oppressive, precisely because the incoming light is intensifying at an unprecedented rate. Do not mistake this for a contradiction. This is foundational physics. When you drastically increase the wattage of illumination within a darkened room, the shadows do not magically disappear. They instantly become sharper, starker, and far more sharply defined. The shadows themselves do not actually grow in size. Their existence simply becomes impossible to ignore, and the sudden visibility of all that hidden darkness can feel intensely overwhelming to souls who had grown comfortably numb to the perpetual twilight. This is the exact reason why the global landscape currently appears more chaotic, vicious, and unstable than at any point in recorded history. It is absolutely not because the darkness is winning the war. It is because the escalating light is aggressively exposing the rot that was always festering beneath the floorboards. Societal structures erected upon inherently corrupt, low-frequency foundations are violently fracturing. Archaic systems that thrived comfortably within the blinding fog are finally being dragged into the spotlight. Relationships and institutions glued together solely by a mutual agreement to remain unconscious are rapidly dissolving into dust. And sensitive individuals exactly like you, who naturally embody and broadcast higher vibrational frequencies, are absorbing the brutal impact of this exposure far more intensely than the general population. Hear this, and believe it. Your hypersensitivity is not a biological flaw or a psychological weakness. It is a highly advanced, incredibly sophisticated detection system. You are physically experiencing the agonizing birth pangs of a planetary recalibration deep within your own nervous system simply because your field is exquisitely attuned to the shift. You are a walking, breathing receiver, and in this current era, there is an overwhelming avalanche of intense signals flooding the airways. However, there is a crucial, life-saving distinction I need you to permanently imprint into your mind. You were definitely not placed on this earth to act as a sponge for this collective chaos. Your divine mandate is to transmute it. The chasm separating those two functions is impossibly vast, and confusing your role will inevitably lead you to total, devastating energetic collapse. Operating as a sponge means actively inviting the low-frequency despair of the world into your personal field, fiercely clutching it, and allowing it to infect and become a permanent fixture of your own vibration. Tragically, a vast majority of profoundly sensitive, awakening souls engage in this destructive behavior entirely by accident. They cross the threshold into a crowded room and immediately, unconsciously soak up the stagnant emotional sludge left behind by others. They consume mainstream media and passively ingest the heavily manufactured, collective terror of the masses. They interact with individuals who are deeply asleep, and they act as a magnetic sponge for those people's unhealed psychological projections and toxic behaviors. Inevitably, these empaths are left utterly bewildered as to why they are plagued by chronic, bone-deep exhaustion. They cannot fathom why they feel constantly submerged in overwhelming anxiety, or why their baseline vibration continues to plummet dramatically, despite their rigorous dedication to daily spiritual rituals. You must understand the monumental difference. Transmutation is an entirely different biological and spiritual mechanism. Genuine transmutation is the masterful art of permitting those dense, suffocating frequencies to simply wash through your auric field without ever allowing them to stick to your internal architecture. During this fluid process, your brilliantly coherent halo actively alters the incoming density. Envision a magnificent, flawless crystal prism intercepting a beam of harsh light. The light never actually transforms into the crystal, and the crystal certainly never dissolves into the light. Yet, through their brief intersection, the light is irrevocably altered. It is fractured into its pure component colors, fundamentally reorganized and beautifully clarified. Your personal halo possesses the exact same miraculous capability to filter and purify absolutely any chaotic energy it encounters. However, this divine filtration system only functions if you stubbornly refuse to grip the incoming trauma. It only works if you decline to weave that foreign sadness into your own identity. You must constantly remind your nervous system that you are the eternal, crystalline prism, not the fleeting, shadowy storm simply passing through the room. We are actively discussing incredibly advanced energetic mechanics here. The simple truth that your soul is still engaged with this broadcast, that you are still physically processing this profound transmission within your body, is undeniable proof that you are fully equipped to handle this tier of wisdom. You are absolutely not a novice walking in the dark. I know there are days when you feel exactly like an imposter. You undoubtedly endure grueling moments where you aggressively question your own sanity, where you wonder if this entire spiritual awakening is merely a grand hallucination, and you suspect you might be fabricating the whole experience. But hear this loud and clear. Genuine beginners do not intercept quantum broadcasts of this magnitude. Novices are biologically incapable of metabolizing the intense frequencies you are currently processing in your physical vessel. That persistent internal skepticism you are battling is not a symptom of your limitation. Rather, it is the ultimate evidence of your highly evolved discernment. You absolutely should question the narrative. You must ruthlessly test these concepts and filter every piece of spiritual data through the unyielding lens of your own direct, lived experience. That rigorous questioning is not a manifestation of fear. It is the pure embodiment of sovereignty. And spiritual sovereignty is, without exception, the absolute highest frequency attainable in this universe. Let me equip you with another vital, actionable protocol. This specific technique is engineered for those critical moments when you catch yourself slipping back into the role of the sponge, accidentally absorbing the world's pain instead of transmuting it. The exact second you recognize that you have unknowingly swallowed a heavy vibration that does not belong to you, and you will recognize it instantly, because it will manifest as a sticky, suffocating wave of anxiety, a sudden bout of unearned rage, or a crushing heaviness that makes zero logical sense. Given your immediate environment, you must deploy this method. Immediately place the palm of one hand firmly over your heart center and rest the other hand securely upon your abdomen. Draw in 3 deliberate, agonizingly slow breaths. With every single exhalation, forcefully declare this truth within your mind. This dense energy does not belong to my soul. I lovingly release it and return it to its original source, wrapped in profound compassion. My vessel is completely clear. My spirit is absolutely sovereign. My energetic perimeter remains impenetrable and intact. 3 deep breaths, 3 powerful repetitions. That is the entire formula. When you execute this simple ritual anchored in absolute, unwavering authority, you are not violently warring against the negativity. You are not putting up your fists to fight the darkness. You are simply, elegantly clarifying the sovereign borders of your spiritual estate. You are formally instructing your halo regarding what is permitted to stay and what is being actively evicted, and your halo will always, flawlessly obey. It is an obedient technology that constantly craves your conscious direction. For the vast majority of your life, it has been wildly spinning on default autopilot, haphazardly calibrated by ancestral trauma and the chaotic frequencies you inherited from society. The exact microsecond you step into the captain's chair and seize conscious command of the dial, your entire reality reorganizes itself. This revelation is the ultimate, closely guarded secret that this specific broadcast was formulated to deliver directly into your psyche. For years, you have been passively sitting in the waiting room, desperate for some grand external event to swoop in and rescue your reality. You have been holding out for a blazing celestial sign, an enlightened guru, a sudden lottery ticket breakthrough, or a spontaneous miracle. And while those beautiful synchronicities might eventually manifest, they might actually be racing toward you right now. They are absolutely not the root source of your liberation. You are the source. Your sovereign field is the miracle. Your halo contains the supreme, unrivaled power to manipulate your frequency, to aggressively recalibrate your reality, and to render you utterly bulletproof against the shrapnel of low vibrational chaos. That divine power is not traveling toward you on some distant comet. It is already woven into your DNA. It predates your physical birth into this meat suit, and it will continue to burn brilliantly long after your biological form is returned to the soil. It is the most foundational, undeniable truth of your existence, infinitely more real than your legal name, your painful history, your cultivated personality, or the tragic stories you tell yourself. You are a pure, undeniable frequency. You are a sovereign beacon of light suspended in the great cosmic ocean, and the specific flavor, intensity, and purity of that light rests entirely, absolutely, and non-negotiably within your own two hands. Now, we must pivot, because there is another pressing energetic signature I am detecting within the collective field of those receiving this transmission. A specific segment of you tuning in right now is staggering under a very unique, crushing burden. It is the agonizing weight of profound transition. You are currently trapped in the void, suspended awkwardly between the ashes of your old existence and the unformed clay of your new reality. You are floating in the gap between the terrified person you used to be and the magnificent entity you are desperately trying to become. You are caught between a historical world that used to make logical sense and a future landscape that has not yet solidified into a recognizable shape. This turbulent in-between space, this liminal, ghostly corridor, is undeniably one of the most psychologically and emotionally torturous environments a human consciousness can ever inhabit. Every single fiber of your being is screaming for solid ground and immediate resolution. Your human ego is starving for a guaranteed roadmap, desperately needing to know exactly how this chapter ends. Your anxious mind is frantically simulating a million different worst-case scenarios, obsessively calculating probabilities, and attempting to artificially construct a future that the universe has not yet finished writing. And the raw, visceral discomfort of this blinding uncertainty is so overwhelmingly potent that you are currently wrestling with a deeply seductive, dangerous temptation. You are agonizingly tempted to abandon the climb and retreat into the familiar, comfortable suffering of your old, outdated frequency. There is a profound, almost intoxicating temptation to violently drag that obsolete identity back over your shoulders, wrapping yourself in it like a moth-eaten, suffocating winter coat. You do this knowing full well the seams are bursting and it no longer fits your expanded frame, simply because the dizzying freefall of stepping into the new, undefined unknown feels entirely too terrifying to endure. I need you to anchor this truth deep within your marrow. Under no circumstances should you retreat. That gnawing, visceral discomfort you are currently wrestling with is absolutely not a red flag warning you of impending disaster. On the contrary, it is the ultimate, undeniable confirmation that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. What you are physically feeling is the literal sensation of your auric field aggressively stretching far beyond the stifling perimeters it was previously confined to. It is the raw, biological ache of your energetic grid restructuring itself to harbor a magnificent vibration it has never previously possessed the capacity to hold. Naturally, it is agonizing. Obviously, it is profoundly disorienting. You are undergoing a radical, cellular demolition and reconstruction. You are being completely rewired from the inside out. And let us be painfully honest. Deep neurological and spiritual rewiring does not mimic the gentle tranquility of a meditation retreat. It feels like navigating a violent hurricane, but a hurricane driven by a highly specific, divine trajectory. This agonizing liminal corridor, this terrifying in-between, is profoundly sacred ground. Every ancient, mystical lineage across human history has documented this exact threshold. It is the blistering, unforgiving desert you must cross before tasting the promised land. It is the pitch-black, suffocating night that precedes a blazing sunrise. It is the dark, liquefying isolation of the chrysalis before the butterfly takes flight. It is the vast, pregnant void of absolute nothingness, right before the explosive birth of a universe. Do not dismiss these comparisons as mere poetic allegories. They are hyper-accurate blueprints detailing the literal, energetic mechanics that human consciousness must endure when clawing its way up to a higher dimensional frequency. The archaic architectural framework must be brutally demolished and reduced to ash before the new, crystalline palace can be erected. And amidst that chaotic demolition, there exists a terrifying window of time, sometimes stretching out agonizingly long, where you are entirely stripped of identity. You are no longer the shattered person of your past, yet you have not fully materialized into the sovereign architect of your future. You are simply suspended as pure, unadulterated potential. You are formless. You are beautifully undefined. Naturally, this formlessness triggers absolute panic within your human ego, because the ego requires strict labels, boxes, and rigid definitions merely to justify its own survival. However, this exact same state of emptiness is intoxicatingly exhilarating to your higher soul, because your soul inherently understands a universal secret. To be completely undefined is to be infinitely, miraculously unlimited. Therefore, if you currently find yourself drowning in this transitional void, blindly navigating the thick fog of your own metamorphosis, and shivering in the sacred discomfort of your own evolution, I demand you absorb this fact. You have not lost your way. Your mind is not fundamentally broken. You are absolutely not failing at life. You are simply gestating within the chrysalis. And hear this clearly, that cocoon is not a punitive prison cell designed to torture you. It is a highly advanced, divine alchemy laboratory. It is the exact crucible where nature performs its most staggering miracles, and it is the precise forge where the most spectacular, jaw-dropping transformation of your entire earthly existence is currently brewing. Surrender entirely to the alchemy. Place your absolute faith in your evolving grid. Trust the flawless, magnetic intelligence that aggressively routed this specific broadcast onto your screen today. The universe did not drag you into this dark corridor simply to abandon you to the wolves. It orchestrated this exact encounter to jolt your memory and remind you that you are the blinding light capable of cutting through the blackness. However, there is an immensely critical, secondary layer to this phenomenon, and I would be committing a severe disservice to your spiritual safety if I withheld it from you. This transitional void is simultaneously the exact coordinate where your energetic perimeter is terrifyingly vulnerable to hostile interference, while your internal grid is actively offline for recalibration when the obsolete frequency has melted away, but the newly upgraded software has not yet fully booted up and stabilized. You are left with a gaping, highly exposed window of spiritual vulnerability. And it is precisely during this fragile interval that your old, destructive behavioral loops will launch their most violent, desperate ambush to reclaim the throne. Prepare yourself for the illusions. Toxic characters from chapters you firmly closed will spontaneously reappear, masquerading as changed individuals. Hollow opportunities will magically materialize, shimmering with the deceptive promise of progress, yet vibrating with the undeniable, sinking gravity of regression. Dark, intrusive thought patterns that you were absolutely certain you had conquered years ago will violently resurrect themselves, striking your mind with terrifying ferocity. Your paranoias will aggressively multiply. Your baseline anxieties will hone themselves into razor-sharp blades, and the psychological temptation to look at this sudden explosion of chaos and deduce, "I must be making a massive mistake," will be almost unbearably convincing. Do not fall for the trap. This turbulence is absolutely not a sign that you have taken a wrong turn. Conversely, It is the ultimate proof that you are blazing the exact right trail. Obsolete energetic paradigms do not simply pack their bags and quietly exit out the back door. They wage a bloody, desperate war for their own survival. You must realize that every single toxic habit, addiction, and limiting belief you are actively starving possesses its own crude consciousness, its own accumulated momentum, and a parasitic, ravenous desire to keep feeding off your life force. The moment this parasitic programming senses the executioner's blade, the moment it realizes it is being permanently overwritten by your rising light, it will deploy every dirty trick in its arsenal to aggressively re-establish dominance. It will weaponize your own intellect, turning your logical thoughts into poisonous darts of doubt. It will hijack your emotional centers to drown you in artificial despair. It will even use your well-meaning friends and family members, those who are still tragically anchored to your old, lower vibration, as unwitting pawns to drag you back down to their level. But heed this warning deeply. You are not entering a war zone. I need to make this distinction crystal clear. If you mentally frame this interference as a battle you must violently fight, you instantly drop your frequency and plunge right back into the suffocating trap of resistance. And as we definitively established earlier, resistance is never authentic protection. What you are experiencing is not an assault. It is a profound cosmic audit. It is a rigorous, unavoidable exam, testing your absolute commitment to your newly forged coherence. The dying ghosts of your past are essentially knocking on your door, asking one final, manipulative question. Are you absolutely certain you want to leave us behind? And your response to this inquiry cannot be articulated through spoken words or hollow journal entries. Your answer is exclusively dictated by the frequency you choose to embody. Every single microsecond you stubbornly refuse to drop your vibration even when the pressure is excruciating. Even while the dying ghosts are screaming bloody murder in your ear, begging for attention, you are actively pouring concrete over your new foundation. Every moment you effortlessly hold the higher altitude, you are solidifying the upgraded software, cementing its reality into the physical plane, and permanently weaving it into the core architecture of your true self. If you hold the line, an inevitable miraculous tipping point is reached. A golden threshold is crossed where the elevated vibration suddenly becomes significantly denser and more stable than the archaic programming. You will abruptly discover that effortlessly radiating your brilliant light demands infinitely less physical energy than the exhausting chore of suppressing it to accommodate the darkness. Your personal halo will let out an energetic click, locking permanently into its newly ascended dial. Instantly, the friction evaporates. The grueling uphill struggle suddenly morphs into an effortless downhill glide. Without warning, highly aligned allies seamlessly cross your path. Miraculous doorways of opportunity swing wide open. The perfect, inspired words spill effortlessly from your lips, and a golden road paves itself directly beneath your feet. You didn't forcibly engineer this reality through exhausting hustle. You simply became the vibrational match for it. Your field finally hit maximum stability at the precise frequency of your ultimate timeline, leaving the physical universe with no alternative but to bow and flawlessly reorganize itself around your new gravitational pull. And hear me now. That glorious tipping point is hovering much closer than your anxious mind dares to believe. For a specific fraction of the souls engaged with this broadcast, that click is mere days away. For others, it will manifest within a matter of weeks. For a select few engaged with this broadcast right now, that monumental, reality-altering click is occurring in this exact, breathless microsecond. The frequencies embedded within this transmission are actively performing reconstructive surgery on your energetic grid as you listen. But understand this: the timeline of your liberation is not dictated by me, nor is it magically bestowed by this video. The sole architect of your timeline is your own unyielding willingness to fiercely maintain your internal coherence. It hinges entirely on your daily, stubborn choice to speak the raw truth, to ruthlessly purge the chaotic static from your mind, and to stubbornly continue your ascent up the mountain even when the suffocating smog is thickest and the glorious summit remains entirely obscured from view. Now, We have reached the apex. This is the exact, deliberate energetic activation that this entire broadcast has been methodically building toward. I need your absolute, undivided participation. If your current environment permits, I ask you to gently close your eyes. If you are operating a vehicle or walking, absolutely keep your eyes open, but deliberately soften your physical gaze, allowing the external world to blur slightly into the background. I want you to consciously redirect your entire mental focus straight into the exact center of your chest cavity. I am not referring to the physical organ pumping blood. I mean the profound, energetic nexus located just behind your breastbone. Focus on that sacred cavern where you tangibly feel the ache of profound love. That specific coordinate where the absolute, undeniable truth rings like a bell. Focus on the exact location where that deep, wordless, primal intuition originates, the silent compass that has flawlessly navigated you through every critical crossroads of your entire existence. Now, visualize a brilliant, concentrated spark of illumination suspended perfectly in the center of that space. Understand that this light is not a new creation. It has resided there eternally. It burned brilliantly long before your soul was injected into this physical body, and it will continue to blaze with undeniable ferocity long after this biological vessel returns to ash. This spark is the absolute core frequency of your divine architecture. It is your original, uncorrupted broadcast signal. It is the solitary, defiant flare in the vast cosmic ocean that is uniquely, completely, and irreplaceably you. Now, with gentle intention, grant that pristine light permission to expand. Do not forcefully push it. Do not strain your muscles or employ grueling effort. Simply remove the invisible cage you built around it. Offer it complete, unconditional permission to grow. Feel its radiant warmth surge outward, completely flooding your chest cavity. Allow it to spill over, filling the entire volume of your torso. Feel it press past the physical boundary of your skin, heavily saturating the immediate atmosphere surrounding your body. Let the brilliance surge further, aggressively pushing outward until it touches the four walls of the room you currently occupy. And then, let it shatter those walls. Visualize your brilliant frequency, expanding infinitely outward, swallowing the building, blanketing the city, and radiating in every conceivable direction. This massive expansion is not occurring because you are exhausting yourself by pushing the light. It is happening because you finally, courageously stopped trying to forcefully contain it. This breathtaking, boundless radiance is your personal halo operating at its absolute, maximum divine expression. This is exactly what your energetic signature looks like the moment you stop violently dimming your own wattage just to make the surrounding fog feel comfortable. This is the pure, unadulterated state of your auric field, completely stripped of the static noise, entirely purged of the obsolete survival patterns, cleansed of inherited ancestral traumas, and entirely free from the suffocating weight of internal contradictions. This is you in a state of absolute, flawless coherence. This is you, diamond clear. This is you, walking in total sovereignty. Now, while your energetic grid is suspended in this massive, hyper-expanded state, I need you to mentally or verbally project the following command. Do not merely whisper it as a fragile hope or a desperate wish. You must strike these words like a hammer upon an anvil. Deliver them as a sovereign declaration, a masterful frequency command to the universe. Declare this: I am the eternal, sovereign light that absolutely refuses to be dimmed. My pure frequency is my impenetrable armor. My absolute coherence is my ultimate source of power. I ruthlessly release every single vibration that does not belong to my soul. I violently reclaim everything that is rightfully mine. My personal halo is fully activated. My broadcast signal is pristine and clear. I am profoundly, entirely ready for the magnificent reality that comes next. Hold that elevated vibration for a heartbeat. Consciously observe how the profound resonance of those specific syllables echoes violently throughout your fully expanded field. Pay close attention to how differently those commands land within your biology now that your halo is wide open and receptive. Feel the reality that these are not merely poetic sentences. They are literal, architectural frequencies. They are highly concentrated vibrations that are actively, physically restructuring the quantum matrix of the reality immediately surrounding you. You are not just reciting a script. You are actively becoming a new reality. You are successfully installing a brand new, highly advanced operating system directly into your halo. And be assured, your external, physical world will immediately begin to frantically reorganize itself to reflect this new internal programming. Whenever you feel grounded, you may gently open your eyes, but carry this vital truth with you. Your energetic field absolutely does not shrink back down into a tiny box just because your eyelids fluttered open. The massive, breathtaking expansion you just actively engineered is permanently available to you in every waking second. This towering magnitude is your true, natural, default biological state. The shrunken, muted, terrified, static-filled version of your energy field you have been dragging around for years was the unnatural aberration. The towering brilliance you just experienced is your actual home. I strongly encourage you to bookmark this broadcast and return to this specific transmission during your moments of profound quiet, perhaps right before you drift into sleep, or as an anchor during your dedicated meditation practice. Allow these encoded frequencies to seep even deeper into the bedrock of your field, reinforcing the newly laid concrete. Furthermore, if the face of a specific individual flashed across your mind's eye while you were immersed in this activation, someone you know is currently drowning in their own suffocating, personal fog, trust that intuition and immediately forward this broadcast to them. You absolutely do not need to attach a lengthy explanation or a justification. When you share a highly charged transmission of this magnitude, you intentionally drop a stone into the cosmic pond, generating a powerful ripple of coherence that actively triggers a profound remembrance within their dormant field. And paradoxically, that exact act of selfless sharing aggressively amplifies and strengthens the power of your own signal in the process. A single, simple act of sharing has the potential to become the exact, sturdy bridge that finally assists another wandering soul in recognizing their own readiness to climb. Now, allow me to pull the threads together and bring this entire journey full circle. Your energetic grid aggressively intercepted this broadcast today simply because you are absolutely, undeniably ready for the upgrade. It did not find you because you are special in the superficial, ego-driven sense of the word, the toxic kind of special that demands to be elevated on a pedestal, looking down upon the ignorant masses. Rather, you are special in the exact same breathtaking manner that every solitary, glowing spark in the infinite cosmic ocean is special. You are a completely unique, totally irreplaceable entity. You are actively broadcasting a highly specific, intricate frequency signature that absolutely no other form of consciousness in the entire, sprawling history of existence has ever carried before, nor will any soul ever replicate it again. Your highly specific, individualized flavor of light is desperately required by the cosmos, not in some vague, poetic, feel-good, motivational poster kind of way, but in a highly precise, mathematically necessary, quantum frequency kind of way. There exists a very specific, hollow coordinate within the vast architecture of the collective human consciousness that absolutely only your exact frequency puzzle piece can perfectly fill. And when you finally step into absolute coherence, when your personal halo is blazing with clarity and power, you slide into that designated slot completely effortlessly. When you do, the entire planetary collective grid instantly benefits from your illumination. Understand this. The ultimate goal here is not for you to achieve some lofty state of personal enlightenment, just so you can arrogantly abandon this messy world and float away on a cloud. The true mission is for you to become so entirely, radiantly, and fiercely unapologetic about your authentic self that your mere physical presence instantly elevates the vibrational baseline of every single room you walk into. You accomplish this monumental task, not by aggressively lecturing others, not by obnoxiously preaching dogma, and certainly not by exhaustively trying to debate or convince anyone of anything. You achieve it purely through the raw, undeniable power of your own frequency. You change the world through the silent, entirely invisible, yet absolutely unstoppable gravitational pull of a perfectly coherent halo. The moment you step across the threshold into any physical space, the collective energy of the room will immediately register your arrival. The individuals surrounding you will not consciously comprehend what they are experiencing. They will completely lack the vocabulary to articulate the sudden, palpable shift in the atmosphere. However, on a profound, subconscious level, their own dormant energetic fields will involuntarily respond to the sheer magnitude of yours. Something buried deep within their spiritual DNA will abruptly awaken, remembering exactly what it feels like to stand in the radiant presence of a human being who has entirely ceased performing, who has utterly abandoned the exhausting charade of pretending, and who flatly refuses to dim their brilliance to accommodate the comfort of others. That precise spark of remembrance, that silent, invisible energetic activation will instantaneously trigger the genesis of their own personal recalibration. Understand this profound truth. This is the exact mechanism through which the entire globe is ultimately transformed. We do not heal this planet through violent, chaotic revolutions or forceful mandates. We heal it through the undeniable power of harmonic resonance. The shift occurs, one sovereign halo at a time, one massive frequency upgrade at a time. It happens every single time. One courageous entity deliberately chooses absolute coherence over suffocating chaos, raw truth over theatrical performance, and blinding light over the oppressive fog. And you, the specific, magnificent soul who magnetically intercepted this broadcast, the one who remained anchored in this space until this very concluding second, the one who felt the gravity of every single syllable strike your physical vessel like a master tuning fork hitting the exact, resonant chord your spirit has been starving to hear. You are undeniably one of those vital beings. You are not currently attempting to transform into one. You already are one. This digital transmission did not magically manufacture a new identity for you. It merely served as a polished mirror, reflecting and reminding you of the colossal, divine power you have inherently possessed since the dawn of time. Your pure vibrational frequency is your ultimate, impenetrable protection. It is absolutely not a brick wall constructed in fear, nor a heavy shield, nor restrictive armor forged to violently battle the darkness. It is an illumination so pristine, so flawlessly coherent, and so intensely powerful that the shadows simply lack the biological capacity to exist within your immediate radius. You do not survive the darkness by wrestling it to the ground. You conquer it by effortlessly outshining its very existence. Now, I require you to execute one final, vital action. Do it for your own sovereignty, and do it for the magnificent collective grid we are actively constructing together right now. Scroll down into the comment section below and permanently carve these exact words into the digital ether. My halo is fully active. My broadcast signal is diamond clear. When you physically type out those specific sentences, you are not merely engaging with a video platform. You are driving a stake into the quantum ground and firmly anchoring a master frequency. You are deliberately weaving your unique vibrational signature into a massive, global web of coherence that stretches infinitely far beyond the confines of this digital screen. Every single soul who types that declaration actively fortifies the structural integrity of the entire grid. Every wandering individual who reads those words later receives a potent, energetic microtransmission directly into their field. This is the exact blueprint for how we construct the new paradigm. We do not build it through oppressive, top-down hierarchies. We construct it entirely through resonance, through each of us sovereignly electing to broadcast our unfiltered signal to the cosmos without a shred of apology. If the currents of this transmission struck a deep chord within your chest, if you tangibly felt your personal grid undergo a massive tectonic shift today, or if you suddenly recognized an ancient truth that you have always harbored, but never heard spoken aloud in the physical realm, I urge you to share this specific frequency with just one other person who desperately requires this lifeline. You already know exactly who they are. Their face, their name, or their energetic signature has already flashed across the screen of your awareness. Do not second-guess that intuition. Trust it implicitly. Forward this to them immediately. Do not dilute the power of the message with a lengthy, analytical explanation or a desperate sales pitch to convince them to watch. Simply cast the stone into the water. If their personal field is genuinely ripe for the harvest, the transmission will autonomously perform its surgical work. If they are not yet ready to open their eyes, absolutely no harm is done, because these specific frequencies are exclusively designed to activate and unlock the doors of fields that are an exact vibrational match. Furthermore, ensure you officially subscribe to this channel if you have not yet taken that step. I do not request this to satisfy the arbitrary mathematical demands of some lifeless algorithmic machine. I ask this because we are actively cultivating a living, breathing quantum field, and these energetic fields multiply in strength exponentially with every single coherent participant that joins the fold. Every time a fresh transmission is broadcast into the ether, your subscription acts as a secure tether, ensuring your personal halo intercepts the upgrade. This connection is not forged through digital code, but through the profound, unbreakable quantum entanglement established between your awakened consciousness and this ongoing signal. Remain securely within the field. Grant it the permission to continuously perform its subtle alchemy on your spirit in the quiet, mundane spaces between our encounters. Allow it to persistently recalibrate and fine-tune your halo, even when your eyes are not actively locked onto a screen. You initially arrived at this coordinate carrying a crushing, suffocating weight upon your shoulders. You are departing this space infinitely lighter. This transformation did not occur because I miraculously extracted the burden from your grasp. It happened because you finally remembered that you possess the sovereign authority to simply set the heavy baggage down. You have eternally held that power within your own two hands. You merely required a gentle spark to jog your memory. Consider yourself fully reminded. And now, the genuine, magnificent work commences. This is not the agonizing work of grueling effort, but the elegant, fluid work of sustained coherence. It is the sacred, ongoing task of choosing, microsecond by microsecond, breath by precious breath, to continuously vibrate at the zenith of your highest, most undeniable truth. Your halo is fully active. Your broadcast signal is diamond clear. The suffocating fog of the valley is entirely incapable of reaching the staggering, sunlit altitudes where you are now ascending, and the glorious destination you are traveling toward is the exact, magnificent reality where you have always belonged. Welcome home to the field. You are infinitely ready. You have always been ready. And the universe has been patiently holding its breath, simply waiting for you to remember your own name. Your pure frequency is your ultimate protection, and it always has been. Now that your personal halo has been flawlessly recalibrated, an even deeper, more profound layer of the cosmic matrix is waiting to be unveiled. Your immediate next step is to engage with the transmission titled, "The Quantum Field Stops Resisting You the Moment You Completely Surrender Control." That specific broadcast will meticulously decode exactly what miraculous phenomena unfold the second you cease aggressively forcing coherence, and instead allow the infinite intelligence of the field to effortlessly reorganize physical reality completely on your behalf. That is the exact, awe-inspiring coordinate where this current journey leads.